There we go. Okay, so I'll do a quick recap because it's been a while since I've been here. Okay, so we were talking about 10 golden rules for leaders. The first one being, don't expect others to do things that you wouldn't do for them. Second was, fear is commanded, respect is earned. Third one, be honest and trustworthy. Fourth one, help more, judge less. Fifth one was, avoid the temptation of adding too much value. Okay, now let me actually stop screen share. I don't know how I can do that. Okay, so sorry, just one more thing. And the sixth one, sorry, we looked at was arouse interest in other people. Now, before I go to the seventh one, I want to tell you this little thing, this little research or questionnaire that Marshall Goldsmith did when he was teaching leadership skills to CEOs. He asked all these major CEOs and leaders in companies, who is your favorite person in your family? Any guesses? Who people thought was their favorite family member? I can give you a hint, it was not wives.
Mom.
Mother.
Mom. Actually, Rohit has got it right. So I'll give you, well, let me, share my screen again. And here's to why. Where is it again? Okay, so here's to why. Oh. So he asked why, because you can't be serious. You can't love your dog more than you love your wife, right? Or your children for that matter. But all of them said, look, you know, the dog is always happy to see me come home. If I come home early, he's happy. If I come home late, he's still happy. If I come home drunk, he still doesn't mind. He's still happy. What happens with your wife or your children? They ask you questions. Why are you late? Time dekha hai? Kahan the? What were you doing? And all those kind of questions. But a dog never does that. He's always happy. You come home drunk, you come home knackered, whatever it is, he doesn't have a problem with that. So what does that go to show? That we tend to like people who like us. And in an office environment or in a professional context, what does that mean? People who tend to like us, so people who are the yes sir, yes, or yes ma'am, yes type of people, who would never condemn you, never criticize you, never give you any feedback, always say to you that, oh, you're so good at this. Those are the people that we tend to like. We tend to think, no, but there are good friends. In short, they're probably just good suck-ups. So the moral of the story is, I don't know if I can go down to this. Okay, so what Marshall Goldsmith recommended leaders was don't play favorites. But for that, what we need to be aware of is an unconscious bias of ours. We tend to like people who like us. That's very natural. We tend to like people who are like us. So all the engineers here, people who are IIT alumni, they all got together naturally. Why? Because you tend to like people who are like you. And lastly, that is our unconscious bias. So only when we are aware of this unconscious bias, that's when we can tend to categorize people as, why do we like this person? Is it because he's truly a good friend, or is he being just a good suck-up? Now, a good way of finding out your unconscious bias is make a list of all the people who you like, who you call your friends, and then try and think, why is it that I like this person? And more probably, the answer is going to be that either they are one of the two, they are like you, or they like you. So be aware of your unconscious bias. I recently found out my unconscious bias, which was, I follow this author called Minnie Jong-Bayer. You can look her up on LinkedIn. And she's not a typical university professor. When I read her books, I had not known who this Minnie Jong-Bayer was. She's done her PhD in neuroscience, and I loved her work. When I met with her for the first time at a conference, I just refused to believe that that is the person who's written this book. Because this person, she does not look like a typical university professor that I had pictured her to be, an old lady with, you know, scruffy clothes and kind of does not care about her appearance. This woman was very young. She has tattoos all over, dark makeup, looks like a punk. And that's what it is. So I quickly realized I was just not willing to accept this person to be someone who's of that intellect. And that was my unconscious bias. I would have naturally gravitated to people with big glasses and scruffy clothes, old people looking like university professors. So just be aware of your unconscious biases, because as a leader, we tend to favor people who either say yes, ma'am, or yes, sir, all the time, or people who are more like us. Oh, you're from Mumbai. Oh, you're from this university. That's what we tend to do. So don't play favorites and be aware of your unconscious bias. Thank you.
That's one fantastic talk, Nikita.